the road, because initially when you're detoxing off of alcohol, it's not a pleasant experience, because getting the sugar stable, getting the mood stable is difficult, whether it's alcoholism or alcohol abuse, because once again it's become a life crutch. Now, there is an herb called angelica, and angelica has some studies, and there are other drugs like that they use for smoking and other things, and there are some drugs out there as well that can help with alcohol cravings, but they have side effects. So I didn't even throw anything down about them. But angelica can induce a distaste for alcohol. There's other formulas and other things as well, but the herb angelica can be kind of helpful maybe in making it just absolutely not want it at all, because it won't taste good. I'm going to conclude by saying, if you are a substance abuse user with alcohol, or you are an alcoholic, I know I have it in my family. I've never been drunk before and never used a drug, but I have family members and I have friends that have alcohol abuse or alcoholism. You got to get help. To think that you can do things on your own, no, you got there in the first place, and to think all of a sudden I can go off this and the magical land is there. So check out your AA. There's local sponsors. You can get numbers. There are people that will sponsor you and check in with you every single day to help keep you straight, who've been there and who've done that. Seek the help, find good counselors, get family support, church support, whatever you can get. Don't do this on your own, though, if you have alcoholism. Get the help that you need. Thank you. Next, we're going to be moving on to the fitness portion of our show. I'll be showing you an exercise that I've shown about about 6 weeks ago, that we use for reducing stress, but it can also help reduce the stress for people coming off of alcohol. Thank you. This portion of our show, and once again we're on the floor. I showed this exercise to you several weeks back, but I think it's really important since we're talking about alcoholism. This is probably the most soothing movement that I can show you that involves actually no movement at all. And what it is, it's grabbing the bundle of nerves underneath the neck. And what you do, and this is known in medicine practice called Shinjin-jitsu. What you're doing, it's actually should say an energy practice. You put your hands, Greg, slightly lift your head, underneath the person, and you grab, see where my fingers are here? We're going to grab underneath there, right at the base of the skull, and we're just going to kind of hold it. And sometimes when you hold that area, there's huge amounts of bundles of nerves under there. For some reason, don't ask me why, there's not always an explanation to everything out there that works. It settles and calms people down. So as you're having either a son, a daughter, mother, father, friend that's having a lot of anxiety, tell them to get on the floor, lay down, get underneath them, and just grab this bundle of nerves in a very loving, kind fashion, and get them to calm down a little bit. And you only have to hold it maybe for like 2 to 5 minutes. Just hold it there. They will notice a difference. Withdrawing, once again, from alcohol is a very difficult thing, and any way you can ease that burden, go for it. Next, we're going to be moving on to the research portion of our show. Thank you very much. If we can get Greg up. Hi, welcome to the research portion of our show. And with us today, Ralph Turchiano with his wealth of knowledge.
Thank you for the intro. Well, here's a science headline you don't hear every day. And don't take it the wrong way. Mouth breathing can cause major health problems. Yes, mouth breathing. Now, that's not necessarily what they anticipate as far as people breathing are eventually going to run into medical issues. What they are saying is that basically children and adults who frequently have no choice but to breathe through their mouth are prone to certain issues. Now, this came out of the Academy of General Dentistry and also published in the January-February 2010 issue of General Dentistry. What they said is this: children who frequently, especially when having to go to sleep and things along those lines, tend to breathe through their mouth more often than not. Over time, children whose mouth breathing goes untreated can suffer certain things like abnormal facial and dental development, long, narrow faces, gummy smiles, gingivitis, and crooked teeth. Now, the more interesting part about that, outside the dental issues, is this, and this is Dr. Jefferson from the study. Many of these children are misdiagnosed with attention deficit disorder and or hyperactivity. The reason being is because the mouth breathing can cause poor oxygen concentrations in the bloodstream, which can cause high blood pressure, heart problems, sleep apnea, and other medical issues. Children also mouth breathe typically do not sleep well, causing them to be tired the entire day, making them very difficult, or I should say, becoming unable to concentrate and do their academics properly. So, the reason it's important I bring it up, even though it sounds more of a dentistry issue, is because in order to keep the children healthy and things like that, it should be something you look at, especially since there's simple tools and appliances that they can actually use in dentistry to expand those sinus and nasal passageways, to make it easier for children to breathe through their nose and get more oxygen in. Real interesting, real simple thing. It's worth checking out before throwing a kid on medication or drugs. Now, another thing that came out of the medical research arena, which I find quite interesting. It may not sound interesting to most of you, but for type 1 diabetics, it does. The headline shows, researchers show some cells in the pancreas can spontaneously change into insulin-producing cells. And this came out of the University of Geneva. Now, without getting too detailed, what they did was this. They took animals. Then there's two groups of cells in the pancreas, alpha and beta. Beta are the insulin. Autoimmune diseases rarely ever attack alpha cells, which produce a hormone called glucagon. What they did was they simply took all the beta cells off the pancreas and destroyed them, or at least 99% of them. An amazing thing occurred shortly after that. After they eliminated all the beta cells, including the defective beta cells, the alpha cells in the pancreas changed immediately into beta cells, almost spontaneously. They started producing beta cells. The animals which basically had the beta cells destroyed basically lost all need for any sort of insulin supplementation on top of that, because the pancreas returned to normal. Now, it's not that easy. You still got to figure out why the beta cells are being attacked by the immune system. But it's something which is amazing as far as hope for type 1 diabetics, especially since it's growing. This is what they said, quote unquote. Basically, according to Dr. Andrew Rakeman, program manager of the beta cell therapies, it demonstrated that alpha to beta cell reprogram can be natural and spontaneous. We're spending tons of money right now trying to genetically engineer new beta cells, but in reality, they don't know why. The answer's there, and the body can do it on its own. It's real curious. Now, some things you don't want the body to have to deal with on its own. 3 common chemicals which affect female development. This came out of Mount Sinai School of Medicine. These chemicals, phenols, phthalates, and synthetic phytoestrogens. These chemicals you find in your fragrance type items, shampoo, plastics, anything along those lines, medicines, even some vitamins and nutritional supplements that are time released. They'll actually use for phytoestrogens in that process to time release them. But they said, quote unquote, they showed these chemicals can cause young girls to hit puberty way before their time, leaving them prone to weight gain, cancer, you name it, just really way too early. The worst of these chemicals, of course, were phthalates, P-H-T-H-A-L-A-T-E-S. And this is a simple thing to avoid. If you have a young girl, 5, 6, actually I'd say a young boy, but if you have a young girl especially, then you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age, or just a newborn, try to avoid fragrant type items and soaps, because these phthalates were the ones, especially in the lotions and shampoos, were the ones that were related directly to earlier breast and pubic hair development. Good thing to try to stay with, simple. You don't have to take a vitamin or supplement, just buy things which at least try to buy things at least fragrance free. After that, out of Canada, did the seasonal flu vaccination increase the risk of infection from the pandemic H1N1 flu? Well, the bottom line answer is yes. How much did it increase your risk of getting swine flu if you were vaccinated against the regular flu? Well, reality, about 68%. In some areas, again, the numbers can be usually between 1.4 and 1.5 times. They said it is confirmed. So it's not in question. Now, it does bring the attention that you have to look at the biological implications of what a pandemic may be. What you may be doing to protect someone against a normal flu season may leave them very prone to something that may come out of nowhere. And the irony is, again, this did not happen among people that were not vaccinated. If you were vaccinated against the flu, you were 68% more likely to catch the swine flu than a person that was not vaccinated at all. Now, of course, their answer was basically maybe you should take the swine flu shot itself. But keep in mind, if you remember earlier shows, if you did the flu shot and the swine flu shot, only one of those tend to take hold. So in reality, you got to determine what's your priority. A mild inconvenience, or actually something that could come around the corner and just take you for a ride. Now, for those that basically don't like to eat, or people that are basically, I should say, overeating and trying to watch your diet, there's a real simple way you can reduce your calorie consumption by about 18%. And it's something your ancestors and your parents from long ago probably did before we got really involved in the cereal type wheat flour culture. Eggs. They found out when people were served eggs for breakfast in the morning, they reduced the caloric consumption down 18% the rest of the day. Primary reason, the quality of the protein. You're talking close to 1/5 elimination of the calories you craved the entire day just because you had protein in the morning for breakfast. Wow. Remember the time you used to be bacon and eggs for breakfast? Then they told that was bad for us, which it can be to some extent. And we all went to Cookie Crisp, Captain Crunch, and Fruit Loops. Well, think about that. Just a simple change. Do what your grandparents used to do. Do what the farmers used to do. They'd work all day long. They weren't the French toast generation. And now one of my favorite characters in the mafia of pharmaceutical drugs, Pfizer. Pfizer pulled a fast one. There's no doubt about it. And there's no holding any punches about it. They hid information in regards to a certain drug called Neurontin. Canada recently sued them through Kaiser. And of course, they got a $142 million fine against them for what? Drug fraud. Well, this drug Neurontin, which I've seen a ton of people on, became very popular for quite some time. Children, adults, anybody. Prescribed from everything for pain, migraines, and bipolar disorder. There's only one problem with that. It didn't work for any of them. In fact, I should say, take that back. They said it maybe worked in 1 in 8 cases, or 1 in 6 maybe in those cases. But the problem was the side effects. For 1 in 8 people that were taking Neurontin, generally they were exposed to what's called chronic neurotoxicity, or poisoning in the brain. Didn't Pfizer know about this? Of course they did. They hid the unpublished trials from the public. And guess what? They made billions off this medication. We can find them day in and day out. It'd be nothing compared about the money they made off of this. Well, that's it, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ralph. We appreciate it. Once again, do your research. Get the help you need. Thank you very much for joining our show.